Hello, and welcome to Español and English Private Tutoring. My name is Juan Pablo, and today I'm going to talk about negative expressions and prepositions. I'm going to concentrate mostly on things that books do not teach. So the first thing that I want to mention is the negative expression. Let me put something here. Okay. There's this. Okay. Nada. The negative expression nada. So this expression and others as well can be combined with other negative expressions. So this in English means nothing. Okay. So normally in Spanish, we use two negatives. And that's why they are called expressions, because that's something that the English language doesn't have. I'm going to give you an example. Ella no tiene nada de dinero. Okay. And the other way to do this, in most cases, you can do it in two ways. So double negative, no, and nada. And the other case is ella, let me see, ella nada tiene. Bueno, with nada is a little weird. With nada is mostly, we mostly use two negatives, no, nada. In some cases, you may find something like this, but this is not very common. A good example of a double negative in Spanish will be mostly with nunca, so never. And let me give you an example here. So, ella nunca estudia. Okay. She never studies. Another way to do this would be, let me put ella. And the second way that is also very common will be ella no estudia nunca. Okay. Now, going back to nada, nada is one of those negative expressions that can be combined with other negative expressions. And going back to a different example. So let me, the last one was ella no tiene nada. Right? Ella no tiene nada. In this case, I can replace this, the first negative, with another negative expression, which is kind of the same idea in English. In English, you can also have two negatives. So let me see. Ella tampoco tiene nada. This one is another way you can do it. It's like saying she also doesn't have anything versus she doesn't have anything. So she also, or she doesn't have anything neither. You think of it like that. Oops, it is this. So we have ella no tiene nada versus ella tampoco tiene nada. In Spanish, okay, tiene. Ella no tiene nada. So this is what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm using, this is the normal negative expression, and this one will be I'm combining two different negative expressions. Tampoco means neither. Another thing that is important is that sometimes you may find people that say the following. La película no es nada. La película es nada interesante. So notice that this one is only using one negative, only nada. Okay? This you can hear in conversation. It's not very common, but you may hear it. I would say it is more correct to do the double negative. Like, la película no es nada interesante. The movie is not interesting at all. Okay. And if I translate this into English exactly, it will make sense. That's why it's an expression. It would be, if I translate it into English, it would be like saying the movie is nothing interesting. So it doesn't make sense. Okay, so we have no, nada. Another thing that can happen is with nunca. Here it is. So the negative expression nunca or jamás, which are synonyms, are very flexible. And I'm going to show you an example. This is the first example that I'm going to give you. So it would be first. Ella no estudia nunca. Okay, that's one. A second way to do this is to place the negative before the verb. If you place it after the verb, you have to use double negative. You place it before the verb, you only have to use one. And let me see if I can do this here. So a second way to do this would be ella nunca estudia. The negative before the verb. Now I say jamás are synonyms, so I can change nunca for jamás as well. So say jamás. Okay. And so that they are exactly, they have exactly the same meaning. So you can use either or. Now, what will happen if you have several verbs in the same clause? An example for this will be no voy a viajar con ella. Okay, I'm not going to travel with her. But what if you want to say, I never want to travel with her? So there are different ways to do this sentence. The first one is the double negative, where we place the negative after the verb, after the first verb. So it will be no voy nunca a viajar con ella. So we have this. Okay. The other way to do this sentence will be placing nunca before the verb, as we already did before. So let's do this. Nunca voy a viajar con ella. But with long clauses and with several verbs, you can also play around with this. So another way to do this sentence will be no voy a viajar, viajar That's not correct. Viajar. No voy a viajar nunca. Okay. So now we have two negatives. And we have nunca here. But I can also put it at the end of the sentence. No voy a viajar con ella nunca. So nunca is more flexible. And as I said, you can replace nunca with jamás however you want here. You can say no voy jamás a viajar con ella. Jamás voy a viajar con ella. No voy a viajar jamás con ella. No voy a viajar con ella jamás. This is the same meaning. Now, what if you want to say ever, ever? I don't want to travel with her ever, ever. Never, never, ever, or never, ever, something like that in English. I forgot in English, but there is an expression like that in English. Never, ever, ever, ever. Okay, something like that. So let's see if we want to emphasize, if we want to increase the tone of this sentence, we can do this. That will be no voy a viajar con ella nunca, jamás. In this case, I'm putting these two negative expressions together, nunca, jamás, to increase the tone. I never, ever want to travel with her. Okay. So this is like saying, I don't want to travel with her ever, never, ever, or ever, ever. Something like that. And then the same, you can play around with this. You can change the position of it. So let me see if I can do it here. So that would be I can say also this. Nunca jamás voy a viajar con ella. Okay. But it has to be in this order. Nunca jamás have to go always in this order, not vice versa. Another thing that is not that you will not find in books, Spanish books, very often, is how you say, for example, none of them, none of us, none of you. Okay. You want to say that you use the expression ninguno de ellos, none of them. So it's ninguno plus de plus the personal pronoun. The other will be ninguno de nosotros. Okay. Ninguno de nosotros. And ninguno de ustedes. Ninguno de ustedes. None of them, none of us, none of you. And the same as in English, is only using the plural form. You don't say none of her or none of his. That doesn't make sense. It's the same in Spanish. Okay. Now, tampoco is another negative expression, the one that I explained before, that you can combine with other negative expressions. So in the same way you combine in English negative expressions like either or neither with never, I don't want to go, I never want to go there neither. Those are two negative expressions kind of the same way we do it. So if it works in English, it works in Spanish. With neither, this is this one, neither or either. In English, you can also say either. Normally books show you this using double negative. So yo no quiero ir tampoco. I don't want to go neither. Or I don't want to go either. Okay. So here I'm using the double negative. I open a new window and we'll be here. Okay, yo no quiero ir tampoco. That's double negative. But with this one, you can also use one negative if you use it before the verb. Example, yo tampoco quiero ir. Let me see. Another thing that I want to explain in this video are prepositions. And I'm going to talk only about the prepositions that you may not find in grammar books very easily. So there are three prepositions that are very common in conversation that you will not find that often. Like, for example, antes de. It's very common and sometimes you don't see them in the books. It is before. So I'm going to give you an example. Antes de ir a la casa, ella va a trabajar. Okay. Before going to her house, before going to the house, she's going to work. Okay. Antes de. So notice that this is using two words. This is what is called in Spanish locución. Locución in Spanish are words, are several words that come together but that have one meaning. So this one is using two prepositions, antes and de. They all both combine together to have one meaning. Which in English will be before. Okay. And this is a locución preposicional is what is called in Spanish locución preposicional. I'm not going to go too deep into this because there are many of them. You can think of them as idioms as well, because sometimes you don't have them in English or they are not the same, but yeah. So for now, we are going to talk about antes de. Another one that is good to know is debido a. So debido a can be confused with por qué when you translate it. So an example is an example with por qué. Let me give you an example with por qué. Ella no quiere comer porque no le gusta la carne. She doesn't want to eat. Ella no quiere comer porque no le gusta la carne. She doesn't want to eat because she doesn't like meat. Okay. And now look at this one here. Ella no fue a la fiesta ayer debido a que estaba enferma. to put it here, debido a and por qué. So this one is, she didn't go to the party yesterday because she was sick. And look at this one again. She doesn't want to eat because she doesn't like meat. In both cases, in English, we are saying because, okay? But what happens is that because, you can think of because in English as having different meanings. So you can say because as due to, or because of. And this one is to give an explanation or to answer questions. Okay. She doesn't like to eat meat for the reason that it's an explanation. She doesn't like to eat meat. So you have to pay attention with because in English, because you can have two different translations into Spanish. The first one is debido a, and the second one is por qué. If because can be replaced with due to or because of, then in Spanish translates debido a. If because can be replaced with the reason of, or just because this reason, then it translates por qué. Okay, so debido a is another locución preposicional, or preposition, let's call it for now, that is important and is very common. So I'm going to put them here. So the first one is antes de, second one, debido a, third one. So now, por qué is not a preposition. It's a conjunction, and we will talk about this later. So I'm going to take it out of here because it's not a preposition. And the third one will be después de, which is also extremely common. Después de. And I'm going to give you an example. Después de comer, los niños van a jugar. Después de comer, los niños van a jugar. This in English will be, after eating, the children are going to play. Okay. That's about types of that kind of preposition. There is another one that I think is one of the most difficult prepositions for English learners to understand, is the difference between por and para. Okay, so there are different rules, but I'm not going to concentrate on all of them. I'm going to concentrate only on the ones that books normally do not teach. So the first one is that some books explain that the preposition por is used when you want to say because of, on account of, for the sake of, out of, which is correct. Okay. For example, la planta es verde por la clorofila. Clorofila. La planta es verde por la clorofila. This in English will be, the plant is green because of the chlorophyll. Okay. Another example will be, él está triste por el mal clima. Él está triste por el mal clima. In this case, it's like saying He's sad because of the bad weather. Okay. But they're going to explain for the sake of, which is mainly the problem here. I'm going to give you an example. So an example will be, ella le ayudó a él ayer por ayudarle. She helped him yesterday for the sake of helping him, not for a. She didn't have a good reason. She just wanted to help for the sake of. Okay. Now, look at this other sentence. Ella le ayudó a él para poder convencerlo de ir a la fiesta. Let's say something like this. Ella le ayudó a él para poder convencerlo de ir a la fiesta. She helped him yesterday for the sake of trying to convince him to go to the party. Or I can say this in a different way. She helped him yesterday to convince him to go to the party. Okay. So this para kind of, you can interpret this for the sake, as for the sake of. Okay. So for the sake of can also have different meanings. So for that, different translations into English. This one is, she helped him yesterday for the sake of helping him. For the sake, that means for no reason, just because she wanted to help him. And this one will be, she helped him yesterday in order to convince him to go to the party, for the sake of achieving a purpose. If for the sake of is used to achieve a purpose, then it translates as para. Another thing that the books do not explain here is that por can also translate around in English in certain cases. So you can translate por if you use it in the following way. Ella está por la casa. This in English will be, she's around the house, somewhere around the house. Now, in this case, we can change around. Bueno, in this case, around can be translated as por. So remember that there are many ways to say the same thing, both in English and Spanish. So another way to say this will be, ella está alrededor de la casa. Okay. And this is another preposition that is kind of common, alrededor de. Okay. So in other words, alrededor de and por, in this case, are synonyms. Por also has many expressions, uses many expressions. But I'm just going to go with some that books do not explain, and I think that are important. So por lo general is one. Okay. This and an example in English will be por lo general a ellos no les gusta ir a las fiestas. This is an expression that is that the verb por, that the preposition por uses. So in general, they don't like to go to parties. Por lo general, or usually they don't like to go to parties. That's a good expression that is very common. Another expression that is very common is por eso or por esto. Okay, I'm going to put in here better. So por eso means because of this, and por esto means because of that. Very straightforward. Let me give you an example. Ella está enferma y por esto no quiere ir a caminar. She's sick, and because of this, she doesn't want to go to work. She doesn't want to walk or go. She doesn't want to go for a walk. Está enferma y por eso no quiere ir a caminar. Okay. So because of this and because of that is different. It's the same, but you say in the same way you use because of that in English, we use it in Spanish. It expresses distance. Esto expresses something that is near, either in time or place. And eso, because of that, expresses distance when it comes to time or physical location or something physical. So that's what we have for that. Another one that is good that is also common is por supuesto. Por supuesto. Por supuesto means of course. Does that mean in English, of course? Do you want to go to the party? Of course. See? It can be used as an answer. ¿Quieres ir a la fiesta? The answer will be por supuesto. Of course. ¿Quieres ir a la fiesta? The answer will be por supuesto. Now, but what if you want to say, of course, that I want to go to the party, or of course, I want to go to the party. So you want to say, of course, that I want to go, then the expression changes a little bit. It wouldn't be just por supuesto, it would be por supuesto que Then you complete the sentence. Quiero ir a la fiesta. Yeah. So it changes to this. Another way to do this is to ask for someone. That's another example is preguntar por. In this case could be preguntar por algo o alguien. To ask for something or someone. An example will be, ella preguntó ayer por su novio. She asked yesterday for her boyfriend. Now, normally books will tell you that for always translates as para. In order to always translates as para. But not always. This is one of these cases in where for doesn't translate as para, but as por, because it's an expression. Ella preguntó por su novio, or let's change this. Ella preguntó ayer por su cartera. As well, she asked yesterday for her horse. Another one that is very common is por lo tanto. Por lo tanto. And this in English means therefore. Therefore. An example, ella está enferma, por lo tanto no quiere bailar, let's say. Ella está enferma. Ella está enferma, por lo tanto no quiere. Por lo tanto, cama, no quiere bailar. Okay. She's sick, therefore she doesn't want to dance. Por lo tanto. There are other expressions, like for example, por aquello. ¿No? Another one is por ello. Por eso honesto. Okay. So, por eso honesto can be changed aquello is okay. Por aquello is a synonym of por eso. These two are synonyms. Por ello is also another synonym of por eso. All of these are synonyms. So, let me see if I can give you an example like here. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por eso pudo madrugar. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por eso, bien, tenemos por eso aquí, pudo madrugar. She went to sleep early yesterday, and because of that, she was able to wake up early. And now I can change it for aquello. I can change this, put here aquello instead. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por aquello, pudo madrugar. Bueno, aquello, let me give you a different example with aquello. Let me change it. So let's do this. Por aquella razón. Entonces, ella se acostó temprano ayer y por aquella razón pudo madrugar. So I will say this is a better expression. Aquella razón. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por aquella razón pudo madrugar. She went to sleep yesterday, and this is more, it's kind of translates like almost exactly as in English. And for that reason, she was able to wake up. Okay, por aquella razón. Ella acostó temprano ayer. Yeah, the expression is por aquella razón. That's better. Now, let's try por ello. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por ello pudo madrugar. Y por ello. Ella se acostó temprano ayer y por acostó temprano ayer. Por ello. Well, por ello is not very common, so I wouldn't use it that often, but you may find it in some texts and things like that. But this one is the most common one. So por ello is mostly used like this. Por ello pudo madrugar. It's like to start a sentence. That's a way you will encounter this. Por ello pudo madrugar. Because of that, she was able to wake up. Something like that. If we already understand in a conversation about what the topic is about, you don't have to keep repeating the same. So you can just say because of that. You don't have to explain because she woke up early. You just say because of that. It's kind of the same. That's how it is used here. That. Another thing that is important to know is this. Por primera vez. And I'm going to give you an example. Por primera vez voy a ir a México mañana. O, let me see, voy a cambiar. Let me take this out of here. The sentence is better. Voy a ir a México mañana por primera vez. This is better. I'm going to go to Mexico tomorrow for the first time. por primera vez. Now, normally in Spanish, this is an ordinal number. Normally in Spanish, you only use ordinal numbers as to up to number 10. After that, you use cardinal numbers. For example, you say la décima respuesta, ¿no? La décima respuesta. And you can say, and after 10, you don't say this anymore. You say la respuesta 11. But with this expression, is different. With this expression, you always keep using ordinal numbers even after 11. Okay. For if I want to say the 11 will be voy a ir a México mañana por primera vez, por la 11ª vez. Now, ordinal numbers after 10 are not very common in Spanish. The only exception will be this. I'm going to go to Mexico for the 11th time, 11th. Voy a ir a México mañana por la 11ª vez. Voy a ir a México mañana por la 11ª vez. Okay. And then you add la before the ordinal number after 10. Yeah. And you want to learn more about ordinal numbers, you can go to our website and sign up for one of our courses at espent.net. And if you want to learn more grammar, you can also go to our website. All the information is in the description. So that will be por primera vez. Another thing to consider is that the books normally tell you for, as I said before, for translates as para. Some books tell you that there is an exception to this rule. For can translate as por when you are talking about a quantity of time. So I'm going to give you an example with this one first. This is for her. Esto es para ella. For her, okay? Para. No? But what if I want to say she's going to be in Mexico for 2 months? For 2 months would be ella se va a quedar en México por 2 meses. Ella se va a quedar en México por 2 meses. Okay. I'm saying for 2 months. Still, I'm using por because we are referring to a quantity of time. Now, there is something else that the book doesn't explain. There is another exception for this. For example, they want to vote for elections. I want to vote for the November elections. Quiero votar. Okay. I want to vote for. Bueno, I don't like Donald Trump, but let's say Donald Trump. Okay. I want to vote for Donald Trump. Yo quiero votar por Donald Trump. Okay. So not very good with English names, but just to bring to your attention this. To vote for someone, in this case, you don't use para, you use por. That's another exception that normally books do not explain. Now look at this sentence. ¿Cuándo sale el tren para Madrid? ¿Cuándo sale el tren para Madrid? Now, if I translate this into English, it would be when the train leaves to Madrid. Okay, or something like that. So in English, you have to pay attention to the word to, because to in English have different meanings, and for that, different translations. For example, I want to eat. No, in Spanish it will be yo quiero comer. So in English you have 1, 2, 3, 4 words. In Spanish we only have 3. The reason here is that the meaning of to, so to in this case is an auxiliary word that is helping this verb. That means is helping me know that this verb is conjugated in the infinitive form. That's what is an auxiliary word. Because of that, it doesn't have a translation into Spanish. We don't have that in Spanish. So that's the first use of to. Okay. To Madrid. The other one is she wants to go to Madrid. So Madrid is not a verb. So this to here is acting as a preposition, and this one is acting as an auxiliary word. So there are 2 different translations here. So the first one will be ella quiere ir a Madrid. Madrid. Ella quiere ir a Madrid. Okay. So to in this case doesn't have a translation. Ir. Okay. But this one does, is a. So this one here. So to in English can be used to indicate movement from one place to another one. If it indicates movement, it translates as a. Okay. Now, the other thing that can happen here is the expression salir para. And this in English will be to leave to, with the example that I gave you here. Okay. So this one in English will be something like, when does the train leaves to Madrid? When does the train leave? When does the train leave to Madrid? To, okay, in this case, also kind of indicates movement, leaves to Madrid, but salir para, you can think of it as an expression. Okay, salir para. Salir para. These two are combined. And in some cases, two will not have a logical translation because in Spanish we have expressions that sometimes use the preposition para or the preposition por. Salir para means to leave from one place to another place. If that's the case, you use the preposition para. So that's all that I wanted to explain. I just wanted to explain these expressions and all these prepositions here. And I also wanted to explain negative expressions as well. And that's all for today. You want to learn more Spanish, you can go to our website at espeng.net. The link is in our description. And hope to hear from you soon. If you have any questions, you can also go to our website and we will try to answer any questions you have as soon as possible. Okay, have a good one. Bye.